Welcome back to Politics Nation. 4 weeks into Donald Trump's term, and Americans, allies, and adversaries alike are struggling to keep up with his whirlwind approach to the presidency, which began with a barrage of executive orders that have challenged norms and, in some cases, the Constitution he swore to be upholding. Let's bring in my political panel, co-founder and CEO of All In Together. She's also a Democratic strategist, Lauren Leader, and Republican strategist, Rena Shah. Lauren, much of the focus has been on Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, which is slashing and burning its way through the federal government. Musk's pitch is that he's getting rid of unelected bureaucrats that are wasting money. But no one elected him, and he's apparently has Trump's blessing to do whatever he wants. Can Democrats do anything to stop them or make Trump pay politically?
I mean, it's a really good question, and I think a lot of Americans and certainly a lot of Democrats are asking that question. I mean, it sort of defies it clearly defies every pre-existing norm that somebody has been appointed by the president, is unpaid, and therefore, by the way, is not required to make any kind of financial disclosures to reveal to the public what his personal financial interests may be, or interests that he could be gaining from in the work that he's doing in sort of remaking the federal government. So that's the first thing, is that there's, he talks about, it's really dystopian because he talks constantly about accountability and transparency, except he himself offers none. And then the second part is that we have no idea ultimately where his authority comes from or whether or not his authority is legal. And I think that's where, it's really going to be up to the attorneys general, and we're already seeing collective lawsuits from attorneys generals in many Democratic states. But, members of Congress and the Democratic AGs across the country are going to need to push really hard, but it's such uncharted territory. I sort of feel for them in a way that it's not necessarily obvious what their authority is and how to stop this train, which is clearly speeding through the station faster than I think anyone knew. And of course, nobody knew this was happening because Trump didn't tell anybody that this was the extent of what he intended to do by appointing Elon.
Now, Rena, so far, this aggressive approach to cost-cutting has been coming from the executive branch. But Congress has less than a month to pass a budget, or else we're heading for another government shutdown. How much is Trump's approach influencing the debate around spending on Capitol Hill? And what could it mean for the big expenses, the Pentagon, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid?
I think we have to pull back here because this obviously has been a rocky 3 weeks. To see Elon Musk take on what he's taken on from the executive perch, we've just never seen anything like it in modern presidential history. We've seen advisors come and go. We've seen unelected bureaucrats pull the strings in Washington for a long time. But never before have we seen such a bogus sort of authority, if you will. We've never seen an advisor color outside the line so much and exert as well as project authority that might not really be vested in him. This is about far more than just slashing government spending. This is about how the government uses our taxpayer dollars for essential services. And I don't even know that we've gotten to that part of the conversation yet here in Washington, because everybody is aghast at how things are moving along. And it's because, again, we've never seen an initiative for government efficiency take shape in this way. So it's such a shock to the consciousness, and how it sort of molds this budget battle on Capitol Hill is really anyone's guess, because we may have short-term memories as an electorate, but some of us here in Washington feel like it was just the fall when we saw Trump and Elon insert themselves into last-minute budget talk and blow them up. And so what did Speaker Johnson do? To go and do a Hail Mary and really try to get his people and get that goodwill of Democrats. That's in short supply right now, and so it's going to be very difficult, but my faith is really with Speaker Johnson, because he doesn't want egg on his face like he just had in December.
Now, Lauren, Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth made their debut on the world stage last week and sent a chill through the NATO alliance by delivering Trump's America First message in person. France apparently heard it loud and clear, announcing that an emergency summit of European countries will meet in Paris tomorrow to discuss the continent's security. All this coming as Trump confirms that he and Russian President Vladimir Putin will meet in person to discuss the end of the war in Ukraine. Trump was just asked what he thinks Putin wants. Listen to this.
I think he wants to stop fighting. I see that. We spoke long and hard. Steve Witkoff was with him for a very extended period, like about 3 hours. I think he wants to stop fighting.
Now, Lauren, it remains to be seen what role Ukraine or its allies will play in those peace talks. But when it comes to foreign affairs, does any of what you're seeing surprise you, or is this just Trump delivering on what he promised?
I mean, I guess I am surprised. I wish I wasn't, because I think we did get the indication that a lot of this stuff was going to happen. But let's just back up. These last two, speeches in Europe, I mean, they were doozies. First of all, Pete Hegseth, apparently outlined foreign policy that had not been approved by anybody in the administration. Even senior Republicans on the Armed Services Committee, were concerned and said he needed to walk back some of his comments because he off the cuff said that Ukraine couldn't count on returning to their to their original borders. I mean, it's just complete incompetence to go on the world stage and fly off the handle like that when it clearly isn't even necessarily the coordinated policy of the United States. And then you have J.D. Vance, who shows up in Munich and really turns the world order completely upside down. For the better part of the last 80 years, really since World War II, America has stood for liberal values, for the independence of nation states and of Europe. And J.D. Vance shows up and expresses support for far-right, in some cases, pro-Nazi politics in Eastern Europe, in Germany and across Europe, and essentially tries to project Trumpism on European values. It is really disturbing, and there's good reason why nations like France are now, frankly, in a panic, because it is not at all clear what this means for the security of NATO. And, Trump has said for years that he didn't necessarily believe in NATO, that he wasn't going to support NATO. I mean, but this is potentially very serious. And of course, the worst victim potentially here is the Ukraine, the deals that seem to be being made behind the scenes without even the president of the nation who's most centrally involved. Hard to believe.
Rena, Trump campaigned on ending wars and pulling the U.S. out of foreign entanglements. So that makes his plan for the United States to take over Gaza all the more baffling. The details are murky, to say the least, but it's hard to see how this could be anything but another massive foreign entanglement in the Middle East. How do you think this will play with American voters, particularly this era of Republicans?
It's hard to gauge public sentiment on this right now because this has been an evolving sort of tension. The tensions here have been evolving since Trump came into office. And even before, when he was in the transition period, he kept kind of going on about what he would potentially do. But one thing we can take away and what we know about Trump's approach is that it is the most hardlined approach. And what it could do essentially is escalate those tensions in the Middle East, which is what nobody generally wants. You talk to Republicans on Capitol Hill and they tell you that Trump is playing with fire here. On the one hand, he has the respect of Netanyahu. They sit together. They seem to ink their deals together. Netanyahu was no fan of that Biden-Blinken duo. But what is he going to let Trump do over there? And what is even realistic? It's been a real slap in the face to the Palestinian Americans, I think, who trusted Trump to say, I can handle Bibi without making any concessions. And when you talk about concessions of land, that's where things get riled right all the way up. And Hamas is not only watching, Hamas is at the table. And Trump forgets that. So what's happening in Gaza right now, it's evolving day by day. I think Trump, if I had to be in his brain right now, and I think I have a pretty accurate read of where his head is at on this, he's taking it day by day because he's not quite sure.
Yeah.
And that's administration they're trying to put out fires everywhere with the promise of being this great savior. But can they do it? without creating greater tensions where they don't need them right now.
Well, it's hard to put out a fire with a match in your hand. Lauren Leader and Rena Shaw, thank you both for being with us. Coming up, the